Welcome back to the channel. We're on our road to 1500. We are on 1174. We had a win in our last game, so we want to go for the win. We want to enjoy it. We might lose the game, we might win the game. We're going to try our best, be positive, and let's see who we're going to play. We're going to play 1510. Let's search for an opponent. Oh, we've actually got the white pieces again. I thought we might get the black pieces this time. We are going to play pawn to e4. Our opponent is from Indonesia and they have a rating of 1158. We're going to play knight to b3. We are playing the Vienna. Okay, this gives us an opportunity to try for the Vienna gambit. If they take it, it will go into the gambit. Let's see what our opponent does in this situation. I've actually been studying the Vienna a bit and trying to sort of get to grips with it. Obviously, one of the key things is actually playing it in practice, and it's actually gone for the actual gambit. So this could be very good for us. We just have to make sure we play the right move. So the right move is pawn to e5. We attack the knight, and it doesn't really have anywhere to go, because if the knight comes to here, we can actually take it. Or if the knight comes to here, we can take it. So that really has to sort of go back home. A common move is, okay, so that's what they have done. So I am going to play knight to f3 because we want to be a bit careful of queen out to here for a check. So that's why I've brought the knight out. Okay, so they are now attacking my pawn. But I think what we do is we just bring this one up. So, right, so they have look to pin the bishop, the knight rather. I think what we'll do is take this pawn, so I can do some review on this, make sure we're playing the right moves. So the important thing is that if we sort of come out of the main preparation of the Vienna gambit, we just continue to play solidly and make sensible moves. So let's just do that. We may not play every move in the right order necessarily, but I know that bishop taking the pawn on this square is kind of key. So I think so we've got some choices. We can take the pawn here. Or we could just take with the bishop. We could put our opponent in check, but they'll just block it. If we take with the pawn here, there's a good chance our opponent will try and take our queen. If we take here, our opponent is likely to just attack this. Okay, folks, so unfortunately, we had a bit of an issue with the screen capture whilst I was recording that game live, and what I didn't realise is about 5 minutes into the video as I was playing, the screen capture froze, and so we were just sort of stuck with the position that we have visible on the board now, and it didn't progress, so you didn't see any other of the moves. So what I'm going to do is just keep in the first 5 minutes of the video, and then we can sort of jump to the review of actually what happened. So up to that point in the game, and we can go through it. So as you can see in this position, I was considering what to do, and I actually, because moving the queen onto e2 is something that occurs in the Vienna Gambit, this sort of concept of if the queen's here and this file, if this black pawn can't actually take on either side because it would put the opponent in check, I actually played queen to e2, which is noted as a good move, but it wasn't the best move. The best move was actually just to take with the bishop. I was actually concerned with the bishop moving here because I was thinking, oh well, it'll just get attacked potentially, but then that it could have dropped back, so it wasn't the best move, but it was still considered to be a good move. Our opponent actually took with the bishop, which was an inaccuracy. We took back with the pawn, which was the best move, and we're actually plus 2.32 at this stage. They then actually came along and pinned our knight, and they're threatening to upset our pawn structure here by taking. So that's actually a good move, an excellent move. Now in this position, I actually took with the queen, which was an inaccuracy. So we shouldn't have taken with the queen. The engine wants us to actually castle and get our king out of trouble. Now, if we've got the king out of there, we can't get pinned. So because I guess with our queen on this file, we're always going to be under the threat of a pin ourselves. So for example, if the queen comes here, we can't move our queen away because we'll be in check. So I can see why the engine wanted us to castle. So this was actually one of our inaccuracies. We're still 1 plus 1.6 at this stage. And at this stage, our opponent actually played a mistake, which was to bring our queen out. So as I was saying, they did essentially pin us so that our queen couldn't move. Now, I decided to take here, which was another inaccuracy. So it wasn't an ideal move by any means. The engine wanted us to castle again, which makes sense because our queen is protected by this bishop here anyway. So if we stay on this file and we castle, our king is safe, and if they take us, we just take back, and our bishop is in quite a nice position because it's looking straight here, and it's also looking here as well, and can take either of those, which would be quite a strong position for our bishop. So we actually made a mistake there, and we took. They then moved their knight out, and essentially we couldn't really resist taking the pawn. So we grabbed this pawn on c7, which wasn't the best move. Again, the engine wants us to castle. So I think we sort of get the hint that we probably needed to get our king safe earlier. That would have been better, more beneficial than actually going +1 on the pawns. Our opponent brought their knight out at this stage, which I thought was interesting. Yes, because one of the follow-up moves I was thinking, obviously we do need to castle, but I was thinking that we could bring our bishop here to get our opponent in check. Now they could have blocked here, but we're getting close to actually making the king move and them losing castling rights, which seemed like a decent plan. They moved their knight here, which perhaps they did it. I mean, they're developing the piece, which is one thing, but it's actually stopping this check as well. So maybe they did it for that reason, I don't know. I actually castled at this stage. So finally I got the right message and we castled, which is good. The next move our opponent actually took, they disrupt our pawn structure. So it's not ideal because, you know, the king is exposed on this file, but that was the best move. We're plus 2.34 at this stage. Our opponent brings out the knight to d5, attacking our bishop. We actually put a check, throw a check in. Now, at this stage, they actually decide to move the king, which was the best move, but they've lost castling rights now, and their king is a bit more exposed. So I guess bringing the bishop to this c7 square, that sort of sequence of moves has paid off to a certain extent because we've actually gotten their king to move. We actually move our bishop out of there. It's protected by the pawn here as well, and that was the best move, so that was good. Now they come in with their knight to c3 and take a pawn, so the pawns have evened up, and if you look at our pawns, our pawn structure isn't very good, to be honest. We've got 3 pawns that are isolated and just these 2 here. So our pawn structure, I would say, is not as good as theirs. They've got a better pawn structure, but their king's not safe. Our rook on e1 is better developed. We've got a good bishop here, a not so great bishop here, and this rook isn't developed yet, but we're plus 2.76 at this stage, so we're in better shape. Our next move is bishop to h3, which is an excellent move. It actually suggested the engine attacking the knight here and bringing the king to the center. That seems sensible. There's more protection here with these pawns in the center, so keeping the king there probably was a good idea, but putting in a check is good, excellent. They move the king back, which is best. We bring the king up, which is good, but we should have brought our king here. As I said, it's safer under the umbrella of these 2 pawns. They put us in check. We move back, but we probably should have moved back there. So our king is now a little unsafe. This knight's quite strong. It's stopping our king coming here. We'd have to move the pawn up in order to move into this space here. And if they ever get if they ever get onto our back rank, say with a rook, if they ever get down onto here and get me in check, that's checkmate because I can't get out. So I think moving my king over here probably wasn't a brilliant idea. Their next move was to bring their knight here, which was good. It's plus 2. These 2 knights are looking quite dangerous, attacking my king. Now, I played an inaccuracy at this point. I brought my rook up here because I wanted to protect the pawn here and stop this knight coming in and checking me. In the previous position, if they brought their knight in here, they could check me and fork and then pick up one of my rooks, which is why I moved here to protect it. The engine wanted me to bring my bishop to here, but you know, I just thought that, well, then they can just attack me, but I suppose I could then move it down here, perhaps, I don't know, but I opted for this because I also thought, well, I can potentially double up the rooks. Now they at this point played a mistake. We're plus 3. They're bringing their pawns down. They should have gone for an exchange seemingly, and it's at this point that I played a miss. So engine wanted me to attack the knight, get this knight to move. My thinking here was to bring the bishop here And well, if they brought the rook here, then it's protected. But I'm attacking this rook here. So that was my thinking. They actually made a mistake. Now, what I was also thinking is that depending on where they move it, so actually, if they did move it here, that would be a blunder. That's what I was thinking at the time, because I can actually put the king in a check here and then pick up the rook. So the king, I mean, the king could have moved down here and then I pick the rook up and it moves back. But I think I'm at an advantage here anyway. So I put in give the check, and we've now got some pretty powerful bishops. We've got the bishop pair. It's an open position, so I feel, you know, our bishops are going to be stronger than the knights. We're plus 2.5. We've got a rook here. We're potentially going to double up. So I think we've got some decent attacking ideas. The king has to move down. Now, this is actually a mistake. My thinking was I can double up the rooks. And if we just look at why that was a mistake, the engine suggests bringing the pawn down here to kind of cement that knight there, which means that it can't be taken, and that's quite strong. So that's kind of interesting. But we looked to double up the rooks. They didn't play that move. They actually played a miss by going there. And we moved our bishop here. Now, the thinking here was just that, well, our bishop is basically attacking both of these pieces, so he's going to get one of them, potentially. So we could trade one off. And we fork both of them, and actually our opponent at this stage makes a mistake because they, for some reason, bring the rook all the way over here. I'm not too sure why they did that, but they've basically forgotten that I can take here, which I duly do, and then we're actually plus almost 5 at this stage, and we are a piece up, so we're plus 3, and the engine says we're plus 4.81, so we're doing quite well. They solidify their sort of stronger pawns on this side, but that's an inaccuracy. It's giving away a plus 6 now, and we throw in a check. And I think, you know, at this stage we're quite strong, and our opponent actually resigns. So they could go here, but we would have been able to put them in check. Rook comes in, we put them in another check, and then, you know, we could even pick up that other rook, and then it would be 2 bishops and our pawns against the knight. If they moved down, we could have potentially brought the other rook up here. I think, you know, there was a lot of attacking ideas, and our opponent decided to actually resign. So it's a good game. We won the game. That's excellent to get a win. I think that we did make some mistakes in the middle game. When I look at the actual summary, we played with a 78%. Our opponent actually played with a 65.8. We actually played the opening pretty well. There was a sort of almost a 98% accuracy on the opening, so nice to play the Vienna Gambit reasonably correctly, not perfectly, but we did pretty well. And our middle game was not so good. There's some things to brush up on. There's about a 70% middle game, which is not too bad, but we dropped off a bit there. The game rating was a 1550, so not too bad, and happy for the win. We're up to 1182. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. It'd be great if you could subscribe to the channel, get involved, and leave a comment if you would like, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers, bye.